Good morning, everybody. This is Martin John, and this is Tao of the Day. Welcome. It's 7 a.m. here, just outside of Chicago in Hammond, Indiana, where I live now. So that's nice to say, and it's nice to be here. It's nice to be here with you, and I'm going to take a sip of my kombucha as I do in the morning. So good. So I make my own kombucha, and it's been an interesting journey. Been doing that for quite some time, and I love it. And I love being able to, um, as the Tao talks about so much. The Tao says, like, do what's needed to be done. Do what needs to be done. Don't think about it too much. Don't sit on things. Don't don't get yourself caught up in your thinking and all of this stuff. Just allow yourself to be present. Allow yourself to be here, and so much of my life is unfolds in a way that's just like, just do what needs to be done. Do you need to do laundry? Do laundry. Don't put it off. Don't put off the things that you need to do for things that you want to do. Don't follow your pleasures. Don't follow, like, of course pleasure is great, and we all follow pleasure, and that's something that we do in our lives. But if we follow pleasure, then we are going to miss out on the wonderful stuff that life has to offer. I think as we move into this new paradigm of life, we're going to see that it's not hard to live life. We've made it hard because we've wanted so much. We've made it hard on ourselves. And the less we go around wanting, the more we can appreciate what we have. Julie, how are you, my love?
I'm all right. I'm just re-plugging in because I was doing a chat and
I saw
my
that you were
daughter
doing a
rang.
chat, and I didn't see you
Yeah.
on the. I didn't see you.
Also, my signal's a bit rubbish. Can you hear me?
Oh, okay. Well, I can hear you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But you were doing.
So,
What happened to your chat?
well, my daughter rang and I got cut off.
Oh,
I got cut off. So
because
I had to
the
send.
first thing, like,
Carry on, Martin.
okay, I see that you probably, I think what's happening is you have a little bit of delay, so I'm going to be quiet after I stop talking to make sure that you have an opportunity. But what I was going to say was that I saw you had a talk and I went on, and then you weren't there, so I just decided to do this.
Yay! Brilliant. I'm glad you did because it was kind of a call out,
Mm-hmm.
really, actually. Because I've missed a couple of dows from you. So it was obvious that
Oh, well.
you were saying, right, I'm going to cut you off here now because I do know you want to talk to Martin John and you want to pick a number because you've got therapy in a minute, Julie. So you be the
Oh,
client.
do you?
I'm going to be the client with
Okay.
a CBT hypnotherapist chosen by my college to support me for a couple of sessions, which is really nice because there's a couple
Very
of
nice.
elements to that. Yeah. There's a couple of elements. The first one is that I'm going to be the client, and because I know some of the structure, it'll be nice to see what this lady chooses to use. A bit awful, really, I suppose. But I'm kind of looking at how she does it to how I might do it.
Yeah, and CBT really is so much about CBT right now just because of the work that we've done and all of these other things.
Yes.
But the problem with, I think, one of the problems with a lot of CBT is that it is really reliant on the patient, like,
Yes.
absorbing and integrating all of this work over a long period of time. However,
Yeah.
it's not necessary for the therapist to be up in the patient's shit for that whole time. And that's one
I
of the things that I have problems with CBT. And I utilize CBT, but I do it over a very short period of time, and I let you go integrate it into your life. And I think that, like there are limitations to CBT, but it's very good, and I think it has a lot to offer.
I agree, and I like that element of you, Martin John, because that to me is trust in your client. That's a
Yeah.
congruency that is huge. That is why I've chosen that as kind of the hypnotherapy side is what I'm doing in connection with what you do when you say go use it now.
Right.
This is your thing.
Right.
This is up. This is your motivation that's going to
Hmm.
drive this. It's nothing to do with me.
Right.
Yeah,
and
which is
and
lovely.
older therapists, people who have been in who people who came to therapy when we looked at doctors as having the answer, really have a lot of ego behind what they do, and one has to be careful not to be undermined by your own therapist, and that happens very slowly over time
Yeah,
because they have
yeah,
so much, like, and they don't know they're manipulating. They believe in the process, but the process in our Western world can't just be happening under the surface. It has to be guided all the time.
yeah. The word that I would use for that is being the operator. In that
Right.
sense, is the therapist seems to feel that they are the operator, and the client is feeling as the receiver, the done
Right.
to, which isn't really conducive for a result for either. That's the thing.
Yeah.
It
And,
doesn't
and
result in either.
it's it doesn't it's not true. So
That's
like
right. It's absolutely not
you
true. Yeah, yeah,
right.
and it creates a
But here it is.
codependency.
Here's right. Here's somebody that went to school, so they need to make sure that they're getting the due that they're deserved, and they do that in this way of like utilizing their clients inadvertently. They're not out there trying to hurt
No.
anybody. They really believe what they're doing is right, but
Yes.
that's that's in a very specific paradigm that isn't really truth.
Yeah. I like it. So yeah, I'm glad. I will just put it this way: the Tao is great. It is the beginning, the end, the middle. It's the everything. It's the inside, the outside. It's everything, and it's so kind, really.
It
It
is.
just is. And for
And it's
me
so respectful, I
personally,
think.
yeah, yeah, for me, it is joyful that it places certain characters with certain um attributes and ways of being that you bump into exactly the right time on your journey through the Tao.
That's right.
You are part of that.
It is.
And that's what I wanted to say to you. What a
Oh,
beautiful element. What a beautiful
it
element you are.
is.
So, with that, can I choose a number, please?
Absolutely.
Today's number is going to be 74.
Beautiful. Well, this one is don't cut yourself.
Good.
People are not people are not naturally afraid to die. It is what we are born to do. Fear of death is important if you want to rule over people. However, you must artificially instill that fear into their hearts. To accomplish this, you kill as an example to control the masses. Since the beginning of time, there has been one executioner. Trying to take its place will lead to nothing good. As a novice with the master carpenter's tools, you are going to cut yourself. So,
That's
as this relates to your journey into therapy
mm,
and all of this, like, when we say in the beginning, you are not people are not naturally afraid to die, it's what we're born to do. People are not naturally afraid to live. It is what they are born to do as well.
yes,
And so much of our life is filled with fear. So fear of life is important if you want to rule over people. And this is sometimes the role of the doctor or the therapist or the person who wants control, is I have to instill fear that you know, like, one, the institutions, the life around us instills all of this fear through these things, and then we go to a therapist who continues sometimes to contribute to that rather than actually giving us our freedom.
Yeah.
You know, they artificially instill fear into our hearts with all of these diagnoses.
Yeah, yeah, I was talking to someone about that this morning. A friend of mine, Tom, he come round. He's a practicing Buddhist, and we were talking about this very thing this morning about death is part of living. It is the accepted because it is. You can't dodge it. You know,
No.
it's going to happen. It's one shorty.
Yeah.
And for me, I said that death happens for me, like when I started that talk this morning. I'd done it. That somebody had asked me when I have an epiphany, and I said I have an epiphany every day, every single day. I
Hmm.
have an epiphany because I died overnight. I died, and I
Yeah.
woke up fresh this morning, new, and that's when you have your epiphany because how I'm viewing the world today isn't the way I viewed the world yesterday. So
Right.
yesterday's views, along with the old me, died yesterday, but that's part of living.
Yeah. And you
Yeah.
know, so many of us wake up and remind ourselves of who we were yesterday.
Yes.
And that's where the fears that we picked up yesterday continue to cement themselves in our lives today.
Yeah, we
And
facilitate them. We facilitate
right,
them. Yeah.
that's right. And we hold on and we allow those things to dictate the directions that we're going to go. And we do this to ourselves, this idea of, do you want to be afraid of this? Do you want to be afraid of something? Because in order, and your brain will go about doing this, like, you know, in order to do that, however, you must artificially instill fear into their hearts. Your brain will do this on its own. It will artificially tell you stories
Self talk.
that
Yeah.
will continue, yeah, that will continue to make you afraid that you're not okay,
Yeah.
pushing you towards long-term therapies, pushing you towards medication, pushing you towards, you know, solutions to things that have never been a problem until you, or as an individual, or society, or individuals outside of you, started instilling fear that that wasn't okay. It's not okay.
Oh,
Well,
wonderful.
you know, like, it's like, oh, it's not okay for you to have MS. Well, why not? Why
Yeah,
is
he
that not
says
okay?
it's not. Yes. Yeah.
Right. Who says it's not okay? I have it. Like, so it must be okay. You know, and that's the thing, this fear of all of this stuff, fear of not having enough money, fear of not having,
Yeah.
you know, stability, fear of not having a partner, fear of not, all of those things are artificially instilled from outside of you. And then you start to, you know, play the role of the, you know, Stockholm syndrome sort of thing, where it's like you
Yeah.
start to fill in the gaps so that your fear really grips you, like
It
really holds
steers
on
you.
tight.
It makes
Right.
you behave a
And the
particular way. Yeah.
right. And this
Mm.
one ends with this whole, these couple lines. Since the beginning of time there's been one executioner. That just means there's one thing that is kind of running the show. Trying to take its place will lead to nothing good. As a novice with the master carpenter's tools, you're going to cut yourself. And this is the thing. You start to build that fear, not only in yourself but others. You're going to fuck yourself. You know,
Absolutely.
every time. There's not going to be, it's never going to be okay, because we're continually looking to some external, some idea, and then we look at our minds, our fallible small little minds, to make it okay.
Yeah.
and we can't experience the depth of the possibilities that yes, it's okay for me to have MS. There's nothing wrong with that.
Mm. Yeah. It's in a way, it's you might have MS, but MS isn't Martin John, is it?
Right. No.
That isn't your divinity. Your
Right. And I'm
divinity
not
goes way beyond
identifying
that.
with it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I like that. The same as me going forward into this. A fear that I might have is, am I going to be able to do this? Am I going to have all the equipment to bake the cake? Is the oven on? That's not
No,
my
you won't.
concern. Why am I? Yeah, why am I thinking
Right.
that?
That's right. That's
For as
right.
long as I
That's right.
think it,
Like,
yeah, I'm never going to be able to bake the cake.
right. The cake will be
Yeah,
baked, but it won't be you doing it.
absolutely.
Right. It's
Yes.
not like all of the shit that Julie is, right? All of the ups
The
and downs and the
madness.
ins and outs and madness that Julie is. That's not going to bake the cake.
No.
It's the thing that it's not the identity of you that's going to bake it, right? It's going to be you
Yeah.
connected that is going to bake it, and that means we have to stop instilling artificial fear within us.
Yeah. You are an amazing man.
Oh,
Thank.
love you. Absolutely. That was my pleasure. What a beautiful rendition of 74. Marshall, how are you? Are you with me? Marshall? Well,
Yes,
um,
I'm here.
yes, how are
Can you
you?
hear me?
I can. How's it going? Can you hear me? I had you for a second. I don't know if you went on mute or I heard you for a moment. Maybe you can jump down and come back up, or we can try. I'm going to be patient just a little bit longer. All right, Marshall, what we're going to do is I'm going to send you out.
Hello.
Oh, I just got rid of you. I only got rid of you because I wanted to see if you can come back up. Let's see if this is going to. This is. I just started. I heard you say hello as I was pressing the. We call it a button, but it's really. All right, is this
No
better?
worries. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I gotcha.
Doing
I
good.
am well. How are you?
Good. Just packing up stuff, packing my van. I'm actually moving from Florida to Massachusetts.
Florida, Massachusetts. That's a difference of landscape. That's for sure.
Yeah, Western Massachusetts, like uh it's more rural, kind of more scenic.
Nice. What's driven that? I mean, besides the van, what's driven that move?
Well, my mom passed away like about a month and a half ago,
Okay,
so
that's
we
fine.
have to, according to the will, um the state, like I could have stayed here in this house if I wanted to, but I didn't want to stay here. Um, I'm kind of a polar bear, so I like the colder weather. It doesn't bother me.
Okay.
I've lived in Seattle before, so like I'm used to the cold.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, just job opportunities, stuff like that, and
Yeah, there's a lot more going on. Well, I mean, there's a lot of opportunities in Florida. I mean, I don't know where in Florida we were living, but I mean, there's a
rural.
lot of
I'm in rural Florida.
rural Florida. Yeah, it might not be. Going up into the east, to the northeast, like it's just older and they just have more stuff. There's just more to do, and there's more things that are settled in terms of like opportunities and other stuff like that. So that's always it's
Yeah,
always a good move.
I
So
keep. talking to these girls on the dating app from Orlando, so I'm like, am I gonna end up in Orlando somehow? Like, I'm just trying to let God guide me, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't get it's like a cryptic message. It's not very clear, like directional
Well,
wise.
like that's why we look at the Dow. You got a number between 1 and 81, and we'll see what it has for you.
I'm 11.
11.
That's my
Hmm.
number. I'm
Okay.
11.
So 11 is entitled Emptiness is Valuable. Spokes, tire, rim, and hub all make a wheel, yet it is the space where the axle goes that makes it worthwhile. Clay is formed into a vessel. A vessel's function is to hold things, thus, its form includes emptiness. A house can be built, but if it were solid, it would be useless. It is easy to see structure, but structure is there to expose the value of emptiness. When I read that one, this is a classic in the Tao. um, it's
Look
always
up
important to
look
kind
up
of.
look up the significance of the 11 in Chinese numerology. You'll understand the 11 better that way. I feel like.
Okay, so what the Tao is saying here is that there is, what you're seeing is the structure, but the value lies in what the structure, like what the structure is being moved by. you know so like your place, like your
Mhm.
your your mother's home, Florida, Massachusetts, whatever, all of those things make up the stuff, but it is the space that you are in, right? That stillness space in your mind, or that stillness space of, like you're talking about the dating apps, that's another structural thing. You're talking about, opportunity, structural thing. But this is being a move, right? That move that's being driven is the emptiness, and it is within emptiness that that there is value in the dating apps, that there is value in the moving. Like, that is what's maturing you. It's the emptiness, not the stuff.
Right. So not of so like what you're saying is if you already obtained the goal, like let's say you had the goal and you wrote down your goals on the list and you only had three of them and you attained all three of them, and you're like, okay, now I have no goals, but the value is at the fact that you already have that you're in the waiting area, so to speak, of life.
Well, the goal is structure as well, right? So having a goal is structure, but it is the life that desires a goal that is empty, right? Like you are aligned with creating a goal because you are in a certain part of your maturation in which goals become important. Because goals aren't important, right? Like, desires are actually something that the Tao talks about as being like pretty frivolous. Having a
Right.
desire, having a want at all, is puts you in a state that takes you away from you,
My
because
mom was a
now,
Buddhist. I understand the Tao
what's that?
pretty well. Oh, sorry, I was just saying my mom was a Buddhist, so she explained to me the Tao pretty well.
Okay.
I mean,
So yeah,
you
so
know,
that's number 11. And as we, as it starts, I mean, you're packing up your van, and as we start this one, we have spokes, tire, rim, and hub all make a wheel. That's what's going to actually drive you away, the wheels, right? But it
yeah.
is the space where the axle goes that makes that all worthwhile. Like, it's this empty space within all of that. Even the empty space in the engine where the gasoline explodes and stuff. Those are empty spaces that make things, that make the structure move. The structure is you and your physical manifesting life. But That's not the important thing. That's just the thing that moves. The important thing is your understanding of you, your understanding of your growth and your maturation through this process.
Yeah, I have to take on a lot more. I have been had to take on a lot more responsibility, so that definitely contributes to my growth because I'm partially disabled in a way, but I'm not. So what's my weakness is also kind of my strength in a way, but sabotage myself a lot.
Yeah, there's, like this is all once again pointing to structure, but there is an emptiness behind it that is not right. Like, so when we talk about disability, right, when we talk about something like that, well, what we're talking about is structurally, either your body or mind or whatever is unable or disable to do something that is, you know, relatively considered normal. But those are all structures, right? Beyond that structure, there is an emptiness that holds things together. There's an emptiness that structure, there is a value to that due to emptiness. Now, however we want to describe it, right? Whether we want to look at the manifestation and say, "Oh, you are disabled," and so now you get this sort of like experience of being like, "I am semi-disabled," right? Like I have this thing, like I'm special. No, you're not. It's okay
No,
that
I don't
you,
think it doesn't make me feel special.
well, whatever. I mean, we have to understand the depth of special, right? I mean, if you were
Yeah,
to say, I mean, the fact that you said that means that there's something special about it, right? There's something special, whether that's good or bad or however you want to describe it. All of that exists within the manifestation and is structurally created, right? Where the emptiness is still the same. The emptiness of you and the emptiness of me are the same thing, whether you want to prescribe or attach to the structure of something that is, you know, it is the emptiness that gives that value. And the emptiness doesn't have a judgment on your body and your mind. Your body and your mind are complete.
I'm on a podcast.
So when we get to this place, right, like in the second line, clay is formed from a vessel. You were formed into a vessel. This vessel is you. The vessel's function is to hold things. Your vessel's function is to live this life that you are given. And in order for you to live that life, it has to include emptiness. And that emptiness is this connection to all things, this connection to, God, if you want to call it that, or Tao, or however, Buddha, all of the stuff. It's your connection to it. And this vessel, okay, this vessel happens to have a crack in it. Does that mean it's any, less important because that crack is part of this vessel? Now, doesn't make it so it can't hold things. Its form was still made to hold things. Like when we talk
Right.
about the house, if we built a house and didn't have any room to live, because it's the space within the house, the empty space in which we have memories, you don't have any, you can't experience the solidness of a house. It's the space that we encapsulated, but that space was always there. Before you built a house, that space existed, but you couldn't experience that space because it wasn't encapsulated into a little box. Now you can experience. So the structure exposes that empty space in a way that we can experience it. And this is what your life does, right? Your body and mind expose the emptiness of your awareness. Your awareness is that emptiness. Your awareness of where you are. Your awareness and your stillness. It's not in your emotions, not in your thoughts. Those are just structure. But it is in your awareness of being. Because it's easy to see structure, it's easy to see your emotions, it's easy to see your judgments. But the structure, all of those things, are there to expose the value of your awareness. When you find out something makes you sad, that should teach you about yourself, about your emptiness, and then grow beyond it. When you find something that makes you happy, that should teach you about your emptiness, your awareness, and grow beyond it. What are your judgments? What are you holding on to? What do you think is supposed to happen? You know, there are
Well,
times where people.
I don't really think I don't really I have very, I would say, managed expectations of like when I go to start a project. Like I give myself, I try to do things in like percentages. Like, like there's a 15% chance that this, will work. So,
Well,
that
and
way
that's
I
all
don't try.
structure. That once again, once you start looking at doing a project, right? That's a structure. You're living a life. Now, is that project equally, are you equally detached from the project of your life as you are from the projects that you engage in structurally? And that's the big question, right? Of course, it's easy to be detached from a relationship or from a project, but can you be detached from your own life to the degree that it can show you rather than you be so smart to show it?
I definitely realized that. Like once I started reading, once I realized that like myself is not entirely myself, because I read this book that my mom hid one book in the whole house for me. You know what book it was? It was a book about past lives. So it's like you don't even compose totally you of what you think you know. It's like what you know about yourself is very little compared to what actually is yourself. If that makes sense.
Well, and we also have to, like past lives are really interesting. And I think a lot of people kind of get these kind of confused in this idea that, like, you could be living a past life right now, right? Like there could be multiple lives of yours being lived on this planet at this moment right now. And those could be considered your past lives. You could have past lives in the future. Time doesn't exist. And so when we start looking at past lives, it's like we can't, we utilize this phrase past when we talk about past lives and stuff, but we have to be able to be really cognizant of the fact that time doesn't exist in the emptiness, right? So it's really important also to kind of remember that, like, we are here working in collaboration with Tao, and when we bring up our own awareness, when we kind of awaken to our awareness, that exposes an endless amount of emptiness. And that emptiness is what this structure that we're experiencing, right? Our mind, our bodies, that's what those things are there pointing to. So I really appreciate you coming on, Marshall. I saw that you dropped off. If there was something that you wanted to say before we ended, you're welcome to come back up. Um, Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. This was Julie's number 74 and Marshall's number 11. Oh, here we are. Marshall's coming back. Just to have finish this up. Hey.
Hey, yeah, no, I was gonna say, my Tao for me is running. Like that's where I find my empty space. Like I just clear my head and I'm able to find an empty space and just kind of go there. Because otherwise I get attacked with thoughts. Because I'm like one of those people that my mind just never stops working. So it's so hard for me to have that down, that peace, that emptiness, the stillness. Like I try to meditate and it doesn't work very well for me because I can't find that stillness.
Well, it's hard for everybody. I mean, it's not harder for you than it is anybody else. You just have less patience. That's all. And you have to. We all have to cultivate patience. We all have to cultivate this ability. And like you connected to all things. Like you aren't separate, right? Like you're not Marshall, this separate individual running around, right? That's just structure,
Yeah.
right? Structure is there to expose the value of emptiness. The emptiness is something that, like we get really tied up in this idea, especially in the world today, because the world today is filled with stuff. Like if you're moving, and when you're not moving, you want to run so that you can be still, and that stillness is because your body is in a state of movement. Like real stillness is not easy. Like if you can get stillness when you're running, great. Utilize that to try and help you, like come up with a breathing pattern that you do when you run, that you can actually work with during meditation, so you can kind of get your mind into a place of receptivity, of stillness. It's like when we say things like my mind always races. Well, what we talked about with Julie in number 74 just a little bit ago was that there's only one executioner, there's only one being, one entity that can dictate what your mind is, and that's Tao. Otherwise, you're just guessing and creating it. And as it says here, as a novice with the master carpenter's tools, you're going to cut yourself. You're going to fuck yourself every time you try and come up with a solution to a problem that doesn't exist.
But
You don't have a problem with meditating. That doesn't actually exist. You have turned meditation into a problem, and that's what we do in the world. We make problems where there are none. And yeah, it's hard. I mean, shit. Like I've been working on my practice, for, and I don't quote unquote meditate. I sit quietly. Like that's how I describe what I do. I'm just going to sit and look out the window. I'm not going to have any expectations, right? I'm not going to have any idea of what is going to happen. I'm not going to direct it in any way. I'm just going to sit here. And by just sitting here, I allow it to just be what it is. And there's no judgment. There's no judgment as if I'm doing this well or I'm not doing this well. Like the
right,
emptiness is what's important, and by sitting there and being able to do it is at all is the goal, because it's not about the structure, it's not about the judgment, it's not about the expectation. It's about the just
I,
being.
see that's where I guess I disassociate from the Tao in a certain way, that because like I thought that most of Taoism and Buddhism is mostly about like living the middle path, like not not too hard,
That's
not too
Buddhism. That's
soft.
Buddhism. Buddhism. I
Yeah,
personally, I think the Buddhists are nutso. But go on.
yeah. But yeah, that was just my input there. Good.
Yeah, no, like it's not. Like, I mean, there is this middle path. There is this disassociated like sort of thing, and like I love the Buddhists. Don't get me wrong. I think they have a lot to offer and stuff. I don't prescribe to how it has been westernized and a lot of things, and how like they're right, like at its core, Christianity's right at its core. All the ancient teachings that come from those that era, three 5 to 3,000 years ago, they were all created at the same time, and they're all right. And we're moving into a new era in which it's really important for us to look back, because we have those. We have the last time we did a transition like this, like the one we're going through right now, was when these were created, when we transitioned from the the relationship brain to the logic brain. Now we're transitioning from the logic brain to the spirit brain. And so there's going to be a lot of tumultuous times ahead. But that is, it's not about being right. None of these are about being right. They're about being. And there's a big
Right.
shift there, right? It's not about being right. And the logic mind wants to be right. And so you take this sort of magical text, you take this concept of being that is in Tao, is in Buddhism, is in the ancient ideas of Christianity and Judaism and all of the rest, right? You take these ancient ideas and you look at them and they are all about being. Well, as we developed logical minds, we had to prescribe and describe what being was. But that's not what being is. That's etiquette. That's ritual. None of those things are are really valid in terms of moving forward. Like there's no you're not going to we're not going to gain by reading, right? Like and I understand the paradox of me reading the Tao in knowing that like these words are not pointing to anything. It is the thing that they're trying to point to that is important. And we have to be able to separate the
What is the
text.
thing that? How do you understand what the thing is whenever
You
you
don't like
encounter
well
it?
you don't understand from the logical mind what the thing is. You are the thing that it's pointing to.
Well, how do you utilize that?
Well, you don't like you surrender to it. You don't
Right.
yeah,
It's like
like
being
like
carried
who
down
do
the
you
river.
yeah, who do you think you are? How arrogant does one have to be like, how do I use the Tao to my benefit? Well, obviously you
No,
have
no,
no
no, not
concept of
necessarily.
no,
Just in general, like a children, like a assembly guide
like a
to
what?
a like a guide like a simplified guide like that. That's kind of,
Well,
I guess, what it
well,
is.
you don't. That's the thing. If you had a guide, you would be misled. Like if you think your mind can guide you, you're already in the wrong ballpark. Your mind is not only fallible, but very like unimportant and small. Your mind is something that you've created and you've built from your experiences, and it's a real pissant sort of an experience. Like you only have your perception, and you've only perceived what you've perceived as a human being. You've only perceived what you've perceived as, a person of whatever age you are. You've only seen from a person that has lived in the limited amount of places that you've lived in. And yet, you are connected to everything. Not only everything on this planet, but everything in the entire universe. And every moment in time, like you were talking about with past lives. Now you're connected to all of those things. And if you think your mind can grasp that, well, then you've
It's like
already,
sticking your finger. It's like sticking your finger in a bucket and pulling it out and trying to put it back in.
right,
Right.
trying to, yeah. And then if that finger is wet, you're like, oh, this is the moisture and this is everything. And it's like, no, there's a whole bucket of water down there, not just the
Right.
water that's on your finger. Right? Like, and
Right.
if you want to use your mind, then you're only focused on the wetness on your finger, and you have no concept of the depth that you actually have access to. And so once we move to like, and all of your questions are very logical questions that we ask when we are in the frontal lobe working with our executive function and saying A plus B equals C. What do I do? How do I do this? And it's like all of those are the wrong questions. Like it's kind of like asking what is the marital status of the number five. It's like, is he married? No. Well, is he a bachelor? No. Well, is he divorced? No, you don't understand. The question is wrong.
Well, how do you know which questions to ask? Like,
If
how do
there's
you
a
begin to
question,
know?
it's the wrong one. There is no question you can ask because there is no answer. There is only being. And this moment, right now, where you are, is all there is. So you have a van that's half full, and you are embodying that. You have that within you, and that is sitting with you right now. What does that feel like? Now we add awareness to this. If we do ask questions, we ask, do I like that I'm experiencing this? Like, whatever it is. Do I like that I'm eating this cookie? Do I like that I'm in this conversation? Do I like that I'm moving? And it doesn't matter what the answer is to that. I could like it or I could not like it. But being aware that I like it or don't like that I'm doing it is important. It's not about, well, what should I do about that? Don't do anything about it. You don't like that you're doing it, but you're doing it. So go ahead and do it. You don't like that you're doing it. You want to do something else. Do something else. All of that's fine. But recognizing, do you like that you're doing it, which is very different from do you like it? Like, of course you like an Oreo cookie, but do you like that you're eating the Oreo cookie might be a different answer. And it might be a different answer in 2 minutes. Whereas the answer to do I like an Oreo cookie is not going to change in 2 minutes. I like Oreo cookies, but do I like that I'm eating them?
Right.
Those are different questions. And when we start to look at those questions and then we start to become aware of the emptiness, what is happening beyond the structure?
There's a place where time and space don't matter. The forever. There's an
Time is
outer
based on
space.
matter?
No, 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 no. There's a place where time and matter don't matter, and they don't exist. It's almost like we living. I don't
Well,
really want to get into the
time
whole
time and
holographic.
matter don't exist. So it's not just that there's a place that it doesn't exist. It doesn't. It's
Well,
just
I
it's
figured that
just
out
a
from a
reflection.
physicist. I figured that out from a physicist standpoint.
Yeah,
Like,
well, whatever. I mean, it's never existed. It doesn't exist now. It's only in your mind and in with your body that you experience it, but it doesn't exist. Like that's a I mean those are proven facts that have been known for a long time.
right? It's not very open to the scientific community. It's not very open to answers like that. They don't.
Well,
They
the
don't like.
scientific community
They don't
knows
like to
this.
answer.
They know it, but they can't justify their work without it. So there's so many things in the scientific community that we just take as fact, because without them, we will, all of the work that we've done in creating our logic minds would crumble. So it's important. It's important to the market of the scientific community. It's important as we were talking earlier with number 74 and Julie. Once again, we were talking about this idea of, you know, people are not naturally afraid to die. It is what they are born to do. Fear of death is important if you want to rule over people. And that's the thing. This is where, like, what you're talking about, Marshall, and you can come back up if you still want to chat. If you want to rule over people, you have to artificially instill fear into their hearts. And that's what's happened. This idea that, oh, you only have so much time, oh, you only have so much space, oh, like there's only so much of this to go around and you got to get greedy, that creates fear. There is nothing to fear. Your move, nothing to fear. Now, if you have fear about it, or if you have fear about like leaving something or whatever, well, that's artificially been instilled. So going back and forth between these two that we picked today, right? Like, we have to recognize that not only is there nothing to fear, there's value in the emptiness that it leaves, right? So I appreciate both Julie and Marshall coming up. Thank you guys so much. Marshall, good luck with your move. Drive safe, man. Like, hopefully you get to your destination with nothing remarkable to share, and just be out there and be still. And then think about the axle of the car as you're driving. Think about that emptiness and how important that emptiness was, because without it, there'd be a wheel and then a car that couldn't move. All right. Thank you so much for joining me for Tao of the Day. This is Martin John. We covered number 74 and 11 today. I appreciate you coming by. And until next time, keep recovering yourself.